David Johnson, DJ.
Alan, how you doing, man?
Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
I'm so pumped, and thanks to Andy Bittner
Absolutely.
for introducing us.
Yeah.
What a cool...
Part of the lads, sir.
Yeah, part of the lads. What a cool group that you guys found yourselves.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And what occurred even with Terrence, what occurred with the Walter Russell...
University of Science and Philosophy. Yeah.
University of Science Philosophy,
Amazing.
yeah. I'm starting to see you guys more now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because
Me
it took it. We're all kind of triangulating on the same thing from different ways, like the nature of reality from different ways, and you guys are definitely handling it from a very science and spiritual synthesis is where we have a very deep similarity. And then I'm handling it from a very storytelling way, but you're handling it from, I was saying this outside, from a very mathematical, physical, virtual reality style way. And I think that's
exploration in that direction.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a very powerful way that we've been connecting for already 2 hours, even before we started the show,
Right.
about all of the different concepts and abstractions and embodiments of these realizations. It's been super insightful. And we have a lot of really good content that, DJ brought a really awesome demo for us as well. And so we'll be unpacking that demo, and he'll be explaining a lot of what he's doing right now at Argos.Vu. And you can find some of those links in the bio below. I highly recommend checking them out. Before we get to all this stuff on simulation design, DJ, walk us through your journey, who you were growing up, and how you got interested in what you care about today.
Oh, wow. So actually, as you know, today it's my birthday for some reason.
And I do want to say that this is a blessing because DJ came on the show. It's his birthday. It's a beautiful synchronistic moment that we are celebrating this together. I love it.
Right.
And I'm honored that you came on the birthday.
Thank you.
It's so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So thanks for inviting me. This was a surprise from some synchronistic place. I think. So I was born in Saddlebrook, New Jersey, in 1960, and grew up. My father was a flight engineer for TWA, and it ended up flying 747. So we got to travel when I was young, which was amazing. And got into engineering. He was very into like flight systems, etc., that type of thing that go along with that type of job. So I was always intrigued with both music and signals. So I dove into electrical engineering, and then extended that with computer engineering. So I graduated in 1986, and then it's been a pretty wild track to LA, and we can get into that probably on another episode. But the driving force into studying simulation design, as we're kind of calling this thing, started around 2001. I dove into three-dimensional engine design. One little point along the way, in 1981, because a few people could say this. 1981, I did a work-study program from the school that I was at, and designed a video game for the Atari system that went national. So that was that. So I go all the way back. So I'm very, very old school in that way. And so that initial exposure and the little bit of notoriety gained from that kept me dabbling in the world of video games. But I was always intrigued with the possibility of using that technology for something a little bit more outside of the standard commercial video game world. So that led me into three-dimensional engine design, which there was a very large, enthusiastic community of people around the 1999 into early 2000s, designing, in the spirit of Linux, different 3D engines and everything. So dove into that pretty heavily, and I started a company called it was Meditation Virtual Reality at the time, and it kind of ties into all the things that we're doing today.
Yeah.
Interesting. So so that was my initial toe in the water for what we're doing now. So in the aftermath of that, I worked for an AI company in Austin, Texas, and then 7 years with the medical device industry. So, and that kind of catapulted me back into the VR engine design world. So
it makes sense hearing about a lot of the engineering upbringing also with father that kind of spurred a lot of that side of things, and then how I can see also how that stacked up over time to become more and more around the sciences and the engineerings and the 3D space designs like you're describing. When did the art and the spirituality, where did that angle come from along the way?
I think it ties in something that the what's the good tactile aspect of doing art and doing particularly music, because I studied music from as a child, and then it actually became a short-term career when I was living in Florida, 5 years. So some kind of distance.
And
with
what was
that.
the instrument of choice?
Keyboard and piano.
Keyboard, piano.
Mm-hmm. So the immediacy of the experience of doing that, I found lacking in the meticulousness of the engineering. So I think there was a balance. We were talking about the duals before, so there was this dual balance going with that as well. Once again,
yes.
So.
Okay, so that was an example of it. And then when did you get exposed to things like the planetary mystic traditions, and how did that kind of stuff?
Really recently? I mean, the initial deep dive didn't start till 2017. I think so. And this is what we were talking about, Rudolf Steiner and everything, and then theosophy, those the mystery school avenues, and interestingly how accessible all this stuff is now on the internet, to be able to do some fairly decent cross-checking and research and stuff. So
okay,
that one has become a bit of a super intriguing pathway. So.
Yeah, I agree that one of my favorite aspects to the space of the internet is that we can query it for the absolute highest signal, but you have to know where to look for that highest signal. That's one of the hardest things to know how to do. And so I've been definitely trying my best to identify where are the places that have the highest level spirituality, science, genius level concepts and ideas that I can go study, because that's what it's the key, in my opinion, that the enabling of it, but it's double-edged because it's very distractive for many people as well. I want to take us back along the journey, because I was looking at this now. I see some of the engineering influence and some of the art influence, because that's obviously these poles is really where we find being able to go to these extremes and then to synthesize. When we look back 40 years ago, I want us to walk through a little bit of an evolution of what we've seen, because Elon Musk has this meme that's now become more famous where he says that we went from Pong to indistinguishable virtual realities in half a lifetime.
Right.
And it's a very profound meme because it makes you realize that there's this accelerating pace of technological change that's occurring, and then there's also the whole idea of by entering into these indistinguishable realities, we ourselves realize that this already is one of those indistinguishable virtual realities.
Right.
And so then there's that recursion property to it.
Right.
So walk us through specifically, because you were there in the days designing project, you said game for Atari.
Yeah,
and
6502.
6502. So,
right.
Okay, so now this is before I'm born and before some of our viewers are born. But specifically, what is it like? Because now we're going to be showing people, Argos.Vu and literally simulation designs and these insane environments that you're making. But yeah, take us through also that process of how the engineering and design technologies are evolved over those 4 decades.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, just as far as being kind of in the front row seat watching the show take place. But we wrote that app. It was all assembly language, so it comes back to the M1 conversation that we had to bring it full circle, and I'll tag it with that. But so the very small instruction set use opcodes to define things. So you have a basically an instruction, what the operation is going to be, and 2 operands. And that was the kind of very, very what's the right word for it? Just cryptic, you might say. But once you kind of saw what was going on, it's basically you're manipulating things right on the processor level. You're manipulating registers and et cetera. So full circle. The hardware initially was growing at just double, triple the rate of what's software, the tools to develop different applications, and so assembler moved towards C, and then C moved towards C++, object-oriented type of design, etc. And very similar to evolution of dialects and languages, as we call them, languages, of course.
Interesting.
But this tie around back to what's given everything such a boost now is the parallel processing, being able to have many cores on the system. Yeah. And so coming full circle, this M1 chip that came out just recently with Apple, outperforming desktop systems, that's designed for mobile app, low cost mobile apps. This is using a reduced instruction. It's an ARM processor, which is an advanced reduced instruction set model. So you come back to the opcodes again, and it comes back down to the beginning of the story. So in a way, I mean, it's an expansion and a recursion on many levels, but back simplification.
Yeah.
Again, so it's interesting.
So would it be fair to say that there's this endless optimization that's occurring to make things more and more, to take less energy, to be less computationally intensive, to enable more creativity, to enable more modularity?
Mm-hmm.
So these are kind of the trends that have happened.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Ability to isolate and to locate. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always the challenge.
Yeah.
The art isn't necessarily the writing. It's often the debugging.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Because the debugging gives you the view of what the design is supposed to be.
That's right.
So it's the conversation. Right?
Yes.
So,
even as much as this is art, this is also debugging.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's interesting.
I don't know how we're being successful.
Yeah.
That's an affirmation. So
the whole planet is both the perfect artistic expression and at the same time as a massive ongoing debugging.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
occurring.
feedback loop.
Feedback loop,
Yeah,
yeah,
an iterative design. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And that's the beauty of the paradox, the enigma of it's absolutely perfect and at the same time it's a work in progress.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's probably fair to say that the last, you picking this up, especially simulation design in the last 5 years, this is the time for the flourishing of this technological space, and it's the perfect sort of peak. In a sense, we've heard this also become more of an interesting mantra, which is that, like, my generation, this millennial generation, and even the Gen Z afterward, we're kind of the ones that we're too late to explore the physical planet, and we're too early to explore the space economy and the cosmos, which is probably going to be the generation alpha and beyond, the ones that are born like today and stuff. But we're the generation that's going to explore the virtual worlds. That's what's been said about our generation.
Mm-hmm.
So literally this decade, 2020 to 2030, we're going to see a proliferation of simulation designs.
Right.
And our
Right.
immersion
Right.
into them.
Right. And this is this mirroring where it's the cybernaut as well as the psychonaut, and this exploration of the psyche.
Yes.
So it's a natural, organic melding of those, for some reason. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A cyber psychonaut. Yeah. That's
Mhm.
it.
To get into that Terrence McKenna world.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Interesting. Okay, so are you envisioning sort of like the same way that the proliferation of websites has occurred in the last couple of decades, that you are going to see a proliferation of these virtual worlds?
I think so. I mean, the ability to, I think one of the aspects that's a little bit not, what's the right word for it? Bandied too hard is that interaction of the creating the world itself.
That's
you
it.
know, and it's like,
That's
okay, instead of it being prepackaged and it's like here,
Yes,
it's the involvement of the participant in
Yes.
building their own environment around. We've had such a I was thinking the ant farm metaphor recently, and with text, our ability to kind of express and understand reality through this sequence of characters is very myopic, down a single pathway. And now this ability to kind of express on multiple dimensions, of and have them feed back to you is fairly new, obviously.
Yeah.
And again, a little bit it creates a bit of vertigo, one might say, because it's like, this is there's a recursion, this recursion aspect. How much of this is us peering into the mirror?
Yes. So. I liked, as you were saying that it came to me that there's this, our immersion into the explosion of indistinguishable virtual worlds needs to happen in a way where the conscious agent that is immersed in the environment has a co-creative say in it. Mm-hmm. And that's the recursion, like in this one as well.
Right.
We hypothesize that we programmed reality to have a quantum mechanical free will style feedback with the conscious agent that is immersed in it.
Right.
And that we will likely do that in the ones that we make next, where there's a co-creative
Right,
process
right.
with the agent.
What's
Yeah.
the motivation? I mean, is it comfort and security, or is it exploration?
It
and
has to be
all those
exploration.
things.
Exactly. Yeah. It has to be exploration.
I don't know. I mean, I could see polarities there. You know?
Yeah, I wouldn't
You
make deterministic. Yeah, it's like Robert May's logistic map, where you can program the deterministic recursive telos, but you have the Bayesian cloud of probability space that is creative, and that it is that the billions of conscious agents undergo how it actually unfolds, but the telos is the recursive into the next explorations. Yeah. But sometimes they don't make it because of the Darwinian metaphysical
Right.
filters that occur,
Right.
those Fermi filters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on the universal level,
Right.
which we're undergoing many of them right now
It feels like
at
it.
the end of the compression.
Right. But
Because-
here's the most opportunity.
The most
simultaneously.
opportunity as well.
Yeah. Right.
We almost certainly passed the asteroid. We're in the middle of the mutually assured destruction one. We're in the middle of the Anthropocene one. We're in the middle of the biowarfare and artificial general intelligence ones. Those are kind of the ones that we're in the middle of.
Yeah.
And so we have to enlighten ourselves. And
What a place to find yourself.
That's why when people talk about this on a metaphysical level, they say things like Earth is the place to be right now because it's at the peak
It's
of
it's the nexus.
the nexus right
yeah,
now.
Yeah.
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 This is the place to be because we're going through such an interesting, fascinating, challenging time
Yeah.
of being at that bottleneck of are we going to be able to pull through? And it's super exciting. It's
Right.
like, as William Shakespeare says, that, the earth is a stage and the men and women are the actors
Right.
and actresses, and that, take the play, take it seriously and have fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's
Yeah.
a duel. Right.
There's a duel. Yeah. I love it. I want to, before we kind of begin sharing some of the examples, because there's this like weird, the visuals will be really helpful, so I want to pull them up, but there's this like, an optimal macro level way to explain how to make these simulation designs.
Yeah.
And so I hope we can do our best to kind of explain them, because is maybe the first place to start is to say that, imagine we have a blank canvas. And then like you just kind of like start from that, point, in the middle of a blank canvas, and then you paint outward in some sort of an expression of what is happening from that point. Or like, what's the best way to kind of get people to get the starting points of simulation design, and also how would you even program
the
that
process of how it comes about?
Yeah.
Should
we pull it up, or
we can't. I'll give a little bit of a preamble to
let's
that.
do it.
Because I think it comes back to one of the things we were saying before. It's the initial idea is almost invariably, not absolutely, but almost invariably, it's the catalyst, but it's really not what's going to come out. For at least this is my experience. It depends on how harsh the design requirements are, but. In this world, which is given the blue sky aspect of it, that initial spark it's the crucial little point of sonoluminescence. But what spawns out of it are the dendrites and the axons of the thing that are that recursive, interactive. Feedback loop you have with as you experience what the system is doing itself, and I find that creates like the most beautiful types of programs.
Whoa.
So that would be my
Okay, so are we saying something along the lines of that as you're kind of at this quote beginning point in the blank canvas and you're using your imagination, creativity, that there are specific ways to program from that start point that can biomimic certain
You see, I mean, you see opportunities
like golden ratios and these types of things.
For instance,
I see.
Yeah,
And like
but you see opportunities that you wouldn't come up with on your kind of analytical mind, not necessarily, but the act of doing it will inform you of what the next step is often.
Yeah,
I find.
Yeah,
so,
exactly that.
Yeah.
Well, this is a very important point. My ex-girlfriend Alexa, who made a very profound impact on my life, she had this phrase that she taught me when I was like 22, that meaning comes from making. And so the process of making
itself,
is so fascinating because you literally get to unfold the next step in what the process is. And so I love this. It's like when you hone in on that point and you undergo the sort of beginning unfolding artistic process, you might start with something like that golden ratio or whatever that's unfolding,
which is intriguing to you, right?
It's super intriguing,
right. But in that it will inform you
exactly
versus the one where it's like okay, I imagine it done.
Yeah. That's also interesting because then it's like the balance of the seeing the North Star and knowing what that is, but then having flexibility on how to get there, but also picking something and then seeing where that unfolds and then seeing what opens up in the space. Interesting. And one more thing before we dive into the demo. Are the main existing market trends that are driving simulation design are what? What are the market forces that are driving simulation design?
I've allowed this to kind of take its own whirlwind path, and I'm aware of what's going on in the industry, but I wouldn't say that I'm expert by any means, because it's more like by staying a little bit outside of it, I have more freedom than saying, oh, I need to follow this trend or I need to follow that trend. So.
And then like a use case, sometimes we've been at, like COFES, the Congress on the Future of Engineering Software, and that we've done partnership interviews there. And there's a lot of people that love the engineering simulation space.
Mm-hmm.
And that, so there's things like, when somebody's doing an automotive or aerospace engineering or whatever, there's specific parameters that need to be met for a piece to a vehicle or a plane or whatever. Right. And then we'll run millions of simulations on what the optimal piece and materials and connecting points are for the piece. And it's just hyper iterative versus a human going through all of the partial differential equations and all that other stuff by hand. And so that seems to be one of the market forces, in a sense, that's driving the simulation space.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hope another one that is going to drive the space is one that we were talking about before we started, which was the Chimps, this animated series to storytell and inspire and awaken.
Right.
So hopefully there's more and more.
There's a message there, I think,
exactly.
that's coming through. Yeah.
Exactly. Hopefully there's more market forces, and maybe we can get some of the millennial and Gen Z that are in the influencer space that have some of the resources to basically say that we want to make simulation designs of stories to tell, to awaken with these purpose and meaning.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be an interesting, see if we can have a market force that comes in that's more driven around storytelling and narrative type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see here. We'll switch to the mixed effect for you guys. So for those that are listening on audio only, we highly recommend for you to watch on video if you can on YouTube. And we have a couple options. We have some mixed effects. We have the full screen. We'll probably go ahead and start on the full screen, which is what David wants us to. And we'll probably have you walk us through kind of what people are seeing as.
Yeah. So this is the intro lobby for the VU, and the inside there, just as far as just thematic pieces, I've got the torus. You could stop it there. You can just go back a little bit. It's just for sake of thematic elements, because we were talking about the torus, and then it's the mysterium cosmography, I guess, from Kepler. It's a play on that, and we can see the egg coming in and out. So the egg plays a role here, just as far as a interface element, kind of thematically. So you can move it forward from here, because that'll kind of explain.
Are we saying that? So we were just talking about this before we started, that there's some sort of like a starting point to the imaginative canvas,
right?
And so here you picked with VU, you picked this, and so the VU is, in the sense, this environment that we're talking about.
This is basically the main menu, if you want, but it's I call it the lobby. It's
the
often
lobby.
called the lobby.
The lobby
in VR applications, you'll have a lobby to start with.
But this is VU's lobby.
This is VU's lobby.
Exactly.
VU's lobby. Yeah.
So in Vive or Oculus or whatever platform, you would first pick VU. And then this
is where you'd start.
This would be the starting point, which is the VU lobby.
That's right.
And now VU's going to have its own selection of experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So as the
So which one? What lobby are we in right now?
This is the intro. The intro.
I mean, like this.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good question. Yeah.
Oh goodness. This is what we've been doing for 2 hours. The first 2 hours of Hangout, we've literally been doing this.
This is the mirror recursion.
I know it is.
Right.
It's so ridiculously beautiful. Okay, so in the lobby, you're pointing out what you've designed as this is the torus.
The torus, as we were just discussing, as that comes up, and it has play in the Schauberger stuff, which will tie in with the end here and come full circle. So alpha omega on it.
I love it, alpha omega.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to it. Okay.
So those the screens on the front there are potential portals that you can go, but there's also the UI that you can pull up. So I have my it's a stylus that is connected there. That's a handle. So right in the beginning, I have the user guide inside the UI, which is modeled after it's an egg cross section, as you can kind of see there.
I love that.
So
and rainbow.
And rainbow colors, right. So each of those are buttons that give you different options in the menu. And so
is it that there's in this lobby space that there's the different portals as you describe, and the different portals are like the different experiences that I can go into in the VU.
Right.
And then the wand, which is what I'm using, has its own. It's called a user guide. On the
it's actually got a it's a ray that comes out of it, so it's kind of like a lightsaber in a way, or a laser pointer.
Yes.
So you can click it, and then
clicking into those experiences,
and it shoots the ray out right along the axis of it. And I extended out the tip of the Vive, the standard Vive model for the controller. And it ends up being very, very useful because it ends up being a stylus and very precise.
Yes. And I'm using that along with, in the future, we'll be using voice and other tools to basically, I'm using that as my kind of my mouse and keyboard.
It's your mouse, right. It's the three-dimensional mouse.
Yeah, okay.
And then one of the aspects that you'll see here is actually this was an interesting collaboration because Luke Womack, who I told you about, my partner. He was we worked hand in glove with the daily development and then testing. And with the quaternions, we have to do rotations. So one of the aspects of being able to move around really precisely within the VU is the ability to grab space. So I can go in and I can grab space and go like this, and it rotates the whole space.
Yeah.
So this is that's a little novel. Speaking of novel aspects. So that controller ends up being it's a very interesting experience to be able to go like this, and then it's like you can imagine rotating the whole room like this.
So in part of it, it's like kind of what we were talking about before we started, where I'm just kind of moving my head in this case, and I'm watching you and the room shift along with that. Right. And then another example would be like maybe when we're doing like the Google Earth, and we kind of like click and we drag to the next kind of perspective on the planet that we want to look at, and the Earth is moving.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay. And I like that user experience sort of is really important. Actually, a lot of the like Rhino and other software. Right. But the difference of the immersion ends up it adds another dimension to it when you're doing it. So actually, even from a really good 3D editor, Does is Rhino
Rhino has VR that's amazing.
They do already. That's so cool. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I'm sure designers are this is a remarkable shift. Yeah. Wow. Right. Wow, that's beautiful. Right. Okay, all right. Let's keep rolling here.
So what I've done here is we've moved into one of the portals, which is the Cartesian Space.
Okay, Cartesian Space.
And then what we're seeing is these are attractors. So the interplay is off a charged cloud. It's a point cloud and particle system, but the concept is kind of like a charge, like a continuum of charge, and it sets up velocities that occur because the attractor is of the opposite charge. So here's our polarities again.
Yes.
So like you'll see here, you set up different geometries of clouds, and then the ability to run the simulation is dependent on the time frame that you select in the UI. And I'll show you. You could stop it right there just really quickly. At the very top there, you can see there's a slider that selects the time, just like an oscilloscope. So the different little chiclets up there going from red on the left over to the purple on the right are like they're orders of 10 each time.
Oh, they're orders of 10.
Yeah. So you can go from, for instance, something like the nanosecond time frame into the second time frame.
Oh yeah.
That's probably too far.
Or like millimeters to kilometers or something as well in size as well. So
that's how this is one of the insights that as far as those feedback loops and iterative processes, you see from scaling that very tight relationship of time to volume of space.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
that's interesting.
So the oscilloscope aspect of it plays a big role.
So then there's so many things here. The first thing is that we clicked into the Cartesian space portal.
Right.
So that this is now it's X, Y, and Z
correct
environment.
Right.
So we're in a 3 space.
Right.
Okay. And then there's other portals where it's not like this, that it's different.
Right.
And we're going to show those as well.
There's a couple. I mean, we've
Okay.
got one that's a model of the solar system, and then there's a harmonic analysis that we can take a quick look at.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to show
These are all kind of like, in the explanation will be a portal to just intriguing ideas of what we're doing. So.
And the reason why we are showing this as the first portal is probably because the XYZ
it's the most natural that we're familiar with.
Most natural that we're familiar with. And it may be, I don't know yet, because I'm trying to push my imagination, creativity beyond the 3D style space. But it seems to be that this style of universe design, where it's an X, Y, and Z in the 3D, seems to be really natural in a sense. Like I'm trying
certainly
to think,
pervasive.
I'm trying to I'm trying to think of like how else would we design universes that's like
right.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess we'll see examples. But okay, and then so there's that first, and the second thing, the oscilloscope thing, super interesting. So basically, it's fair to say that like if we go to the level of the subatomic particles, we're going to be dealing with both the size and the time,
right?
At those kind of like nanometer levels and beyond.
Pico femto, way down, way down,
exactly,
right.
way down.
Right.
And then, but then, as if we jump to the levels of planets. We're also going to jump the size of planets. We're going to also jump to the time scale of days and years.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
and light years.
Light years.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And this
is
this cosmic quintuple jump that has played in orders of 9 traditionally, that people have been looking at pretty closely over time. But I've seen a big focus on that, where you start thinking scalarly. It's a very similar action going on the whole way. And one of the big problems with academic physics, et cetera, is this duality between quantum mechanics and classical general relativity. And this quintuple jump of orders of magnitude, thinking in time frames, just like this cosmic celestial time frame, as you jump out in scale, the window of times scale directly, and this is pretty remarkable, actually. It's just it's tying these patterns together, So that's at least the intriguing thing that's coming together.
So is it the oscilloscope that's tying the patterns?
That's what did it for me. Once again, this is in the doing. It kind of presented itself. The app itself was calling out, I need this.
Interesting.
As I was playing around. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. We'll head back with you guys.
Yeah. So I set up a sphere. There's a sphere of charge, and I think that's using it's a cube octahedron as far as the layout of the attractors. And as we started off, this is the movement of the cloud within that.
Oh, whoa!
And then you start seeing there's the pulsing, but then there's particularly interesting are these organic morphologies you start seeing within it, And what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing the space. And then I'm going to be moving. You can kind of see it's kind of like a little bit of a flower bud there, if you want to look at it coming out. But now I'm going to scale down. I'm able to freeze the simulation at that point, but I'm also able to fly with the controller. There's a little thumb pad that I can move my thumb on.
Yes.
And by the orientation, it ends up being the vector of my flight.
Yes. Interesting. So you're
so
like.
This is how it ties back to the FPV stuff, actually.
You're moving. Yeah. So you're moving through.
Right.
On a vector.
Right. So if you think of the pad as like your level like where your mouse is on the desktop.
Yeah.
By being able to move the controller, that's the plane that you're moving on, and then your thumb
Yes.
moves is the vector from the center.
Okay.
So you can move in any direction.
Yes.
So.
And then you can also
And it's-
adjust how
Right.
like speed or
So
something.
the smoothness of the being able to fly is that was
I love that.
particularly
Yeah.
necessary for making it a good experience. You know, so I
Interesting.
spent quite a bit of time on that
And
one.
that's so funny
Yeah.
that that's one thing that we don't have here
Uh-huh.
in this reality.
The
is-
ability to fly.
Yeah, we're basically two-dimensional on the surface
right.
of the planet.
Right.
Just super interesting.
Right.
The one
This is why
thing-
this beautiful, just dive into the FPV stuff has been so great for me.
Yes.
So. And I have my lanyard from Newbie Drone. So.
we had a call maybe a week or two ago where DJ sent me his FPV, which is first-person view,
Right.
drone flying,
Right.
where
Which is a sport.
it's a sport now. Yeah.
Right.
And so that enables you to go beyond the 2D to the 3D FPV, where you're flying the drone.
Right.
And so you're usually in a virtual. You're wearing
headset. Right.
and then you take the perspective of the drone.
Right.
And then you fly the drone, and then that enables you to rise up and down, and to the left and right, and fly through trees.
They're
and
designed to be
around.
acrobatic, and it's an art. It's an art in itself. I've had the great opportunity to meet some of the people doing it on the forefront. It's really amazing. So.
Interesting. So FPV is what enables us to enter the third dimension of height, which is super
right, and it's like astral projection.
Astral
if you get into like the
Super
sleep stuff,
interesting.
so psychologically, it's
super
very interesting.
too.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. And it's very awakening because it also drives kind of a macro level view of things. It gives you that bird's eye view. So when you are flying that drone FPV and you go really high up, and then you look down at how Los Angeles looks like, and you watch the cars and the people and the goods that are moving around and the birds that are flying and the way that the trees look. I mean, it awakens you in a sense, because otherwise you're stuck at the meso level all the time.
Right.
And so that's why it's important to also look at the cellular level and the subatomic level, so you
Right.
can go between micro and macro. But meso is really 2D in a sense, like.
Yeah.
And FPV is super interesting. I think I definitely am going to go out with you guys. I would love to come out because that's going to be really the whole that space is now becoming competitions. People.
Well, it's interesting. There's regulate because it's new. It's like it hasn't been regulated yet, and it's like it's like there's a growing concern. There's an understandable reason why people, for public safety, etc. But there's also the freedom of innovation, So this tension is rising as the hobby gets more and more popular, So Terrence, as I was telling you, he participated in it was the protests in Washington with the FAA. They want to require remote ID. So any drone that you build has to be able to log on to the internet and tell the FAA where it's at any time.
Yes.
And there's a lot of kickback coming from the community.
So. It's an interesting balance, because you want to ensure that, like cars have license plates, right?
Right.
And so you want to have license plates on drones as well.
That's what
the idea is.
Right.
But at the same time, people that have a car in the middle of nowhere where they're just driving it on their couple acre property, they don't need a plate on that car. So it's like this weird balance between.
Well, it gets into gets once again into the 3D aspect of it. It's like, okay, what's property? And it's like the FAA wants anything 3 inches above the ground.
There you go.
It's like, who's
3 inches
above the ground.
Not even 3 feet.
And all of a sudden
I have to register in that as a human.
Yeah. So anyway, it's super.
How about all the birds?
It's
Do
super,
they have to
super
register in the
interesting.
FAA?
And it's live and it's dynamic and there's a lot of passion in it.
Super interesting. So. The more we enlighten, the more we don't have to worry about malevolence. And that's an interesting thing, too, is that we can become our own consensus, decentralized trust organism where we don't need some sort of a hierarchical style of control.
Right.
And so we should do our best to have that style of grassroots enlightenment so that...
Right. And
that solves a lot of our downstream issues. Another thing as we explored this is you started using the word attractor.
Uh-huh.
So the way that we've been using attractor is when we talk about kind of that like North Star, right? Or the Godhead, if you will, and that as an individual, you have your North Star in your 80-year window of biological time where you want to achieve your transcendent noble aim. And at the same time, the civilization has its strange attractor, Godhead, where it's like that recursive telos that we're talking about. And so the Godhead, the attractor, in a sense, is some sort of a mathematics that the system moves towards.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, in this case, you can you use the word attractor along the same time that you called it a potential cloud, charge cloud.
Charge cloud.
Okay.
Right.
So then what? So
you can look at it. You can look at it. I mean, it's the beauty of mathematics is that it can be used as a metaphor for many things too. But you can look at it. The way that I've been looking at it is so you have a charge. Say you have a charge cloud of electrons or ions, and then the attractor is the oppositely charged. Right, so then you have like your Coulomb's law that's pulling them. That's how the force is exerted, and then it creates a momentum, and then that's all calculated per frame. So the way that I write it is, which is kind of another interesting recursive aspect, is you write like the entire code for one. And all of so in this case, I think there's like 240,000 particles, which I'm using to represent a cloud, right? But each one of those particles runs all that code.
I see.
So
yes,
and this is why when you distribute it out on a GPU, you can get just amazing amounts of processing.
I see. Yeah. So, is this something like where the strong nuclear force with an atom has specific attractors that are enabling the neutrons and protons, and then that are enabling the electron, that cloud around
you could argue that
something like that, and then that would
I mean, also you could argue gravitationally,
and but that's one of the, let's say, 250,000 or whatever that are in this representation,
right?
And then further is you can say that this whole 250,000 representation has its own attractor as well. So it's layers of attractors, because you can say that this is moving towards something.
Can be.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. So there's like layers of attractors, or like, and holonically, holons inside of holons, the cell inside of the body, inside of the civilization.
This comes into the idea with Jim Wenninger, which is it's the filament within filaments, and as we go on, we'll look. There's a solar system model, that we can talk about, but it's exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
So I think as I remember putting this together, so now what I scaled, so now it appears to be like the size of a football field from my standpoint. I'm flying into it. So each one of those little, they look like paper airplanes there.
Is that like the geometries? Those are like the geometries.
That's the geometry of that point cloud. So at that point, that's the vector, and then the color is the velocity. So
Oh.
so it ends up being a velocity map of each of those points. So
Okay.
yeah.
So it's a vector and a velocity.
Point right, as far as the magnitude is the color. Yeah.
Okay. Because it's that because you have the is it in like a tensor field you would have both the vector and the scalar, or like how far it is. So like, okay, so you have vector, scalar, you have, like Eric Weinstein talks about it as rulers and protractors.
Right.
So there's the ruler is the scalar.
Right.
And then the protractor is trying to tell you what angle the vector's at. And so is it something like that?
Yeah.
It's something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, each one contains, I mean, in the spinners, et cetera, all these different aspects. But in this case, it's containing the normal to the direction of the velocity of the pull, and then it's the magnitude, basically. So.
And this is
and what ends up happening by looking at the entire field, you see these natural tendencies, that are like the collective wave that forms like a murmuration, with birds, and they happen naturally, So.
Interesting, and that's where we tie in the Rupert Sheldrake.
Morphic
fields,
kind of right. You can kind of see them happening organically.
You see it organically happening.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So then, the way that this currently looks with these geometric representations that look kind of morphic, is similar to like the school of fish or the flock of birds that are flying or swimming, or like humans as well as we.
And then what are the behaviors. that are causing it? This is a very simple behavior, and even using a simple behavior, you get very, very beautifully complex and just once again, like I said, organic results out of it.
And did you move to a different space, or is this still the same space?
It's the same space. I'm just using it's a Fibonacci spiral as a point cloud.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
So you can see and it's only one attractor in this case. So they're all passing through that one attractor. So you'll see it from the front here. Yeah. So here you see the scrolling.
Wow. Whoa.
So you're seeing all these you can see the toroidal aspect of it. You see the scrolling, and then anyway, super enjoyable as far as a phantasm goes. So.
I'm so curious about that one. Okay, wow. All right, that was interesting. So, are we saying that like what's going on here is there's an attractor at the origin.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
In this case.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the entire space passes through it and inverts. So you could look at it that way.
Yeah. I'm just getting so many of my metaphysics are getting augmented right now.
Oh, good.
It's like so then when we look at something like
excuse me,
like the idea of like Mathstown has a incredible Benoit Mandelbrot infinite fractal zoom, right, where there's an origin point, and then it's just this like insanely gorgeous infinite fractal zoom that's occurring.
Yeah.
And so that you can do this with Fibonacci in this sense, this golden ratio style, from the origin point, and that in metaphysically, if we think about it as a consciousness exploring infinity, there's some sort of a source code origin point where there's you can think of it as a source light that's refracting through these infinite combinations of realities that consciousness gets to immerse itself as a exploration, as an explorer through the analysis of the phenomenological states that occur in those realities. And that, so this is kind of where it's super interesting, like metaphysically, because I'm starting to see a similarity here between what you're expressing and between kind of what, like in high level perception, I made this in the chapter 10 on infinity, where I also put the origin point in that Mandelbrot infinite fractal zoom to be in that kind of center point that was undergoing this infinite exploration. So that in itself could be the attractor, the source code, that exploration. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm really,
Origins are very interesting.
yeah. Yeah.
Multi-level metaphor. Yeah.
Yes.
There's a thing called the orbit of zero, I think, with Mandelbrot sets. It's
the orbit of zero.
Orbit of zero. Yeah.
Whoa.
But anyway,
Okay.
that's a whole. It's another rabbit hole to dive down.
We're just lining up like podcasts after
Right.
podcast
Right.
right now.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. Okay. This is so cool. Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll get back to the continuation of this.
So this is a sphere passing through itself here. You can see the attractor is a little bit off center, and you start seeing this cardioid come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So, and you can see it bounces back and forth. It oscillates between the two orientations.
That's so cool.
And then I think I have another one here where it's right on the edge, and then you start seeing these radiation patterns as well that come out of it that are pretty interesting.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I love this.
yeah, and then you can really see that kind of that central focus through the the calculation that I do as they pass through that. Once again, there's a single attractor. But the calculation has to take into account a Zeno's paradox as you come down into smaller and smaller lengths as you approach that as remember we're talking about 1 over r, and as that r decreases down to 0, you get an explosion of the floating point decimal. So I have to do a bit of a Zeno's paradox with it there to get the accuracy, precision I'm looking for. So, but you can kind of see that this very interesting conic behavior along with the toroidal nature of the thing.
Yes. Yeah. I love how close we are to that. Well, apparently, it looks like we're closer to the origin point.
Yeah, you're getting close to the origin there. Yeah. So, and you can see them all coming in.
Whoa.
So,
there. Whoa.
right. So one of the aspects of developing this that made it so nicely iterative was the ability to have that oscilloscope aspect to it. Where I can change these time frames and see those, see how it behaves. This is running decently fast here, but
are those on the wand? Do you have do you have your scale and variance kind of on the wand?
It's in the UI.
It's in the UI.
Remember those chiclets that are up on the top, the different colors?
Oh yeah, those. Oh, that's
and
right.
And then there's a slider.
Those are. That's right. Okay, so red on the left is that the smallest or the largest?
I have it on the left. That's the largest.
It's the largest.
Red.
That would
be each incremental time space would be the
like the wavelength itself in our spectrum.
Right.
Okay, so red is longest, and then the nano pico femto.
It ends up being 5 orders of magnitude. So
5 orders of magnitude.
Yeah, so it's not that large, but I mean it's large.
It's large. Yeah. I see. Okay. So it'd be 10,000, 1,100, 10 and 1 or something. Yeah, something like that. Okay.
Exactly.
Going from red to purple.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Interesting. At the top of the user interface that you were showing. Yeah, got it. That's how you jump between the. That's your oscilloscope. That's your oscilloscope. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It's a spatial. The cornerstone aspect of it of this portal of the VU is the
oscilloscope.
The oscilloscope.
Interesting.
Spatial oscilloscope.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Spatial That's so interesting.
Right.
The
Instead of a
spatial-
signal where it's 2D, it's like the entire space.
You would say that the spatial oscilloscope is the cornerstone of the VU.
I would say that this early access version, I would say definitely.
That's
yeah.
cool. I
So,
like that a lot.
right.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. And again, would you say that the oscilloscope it enables scale invariance?
No, it enables you to explore like the different time frames, and then the one thing that was really enlightening to me by doing it is the direct relationship of perceived volume to time.
So oscilloscope brings the relativity of time and volume or distance.
It's super apparent. Yeah.
Together, so that if you're at the 10,000 scale all the way down to the 1 scale,
right,
you're
right.
Okay.
If you become tiny, it's like your millisecond will seem like a year.
Yes. So the oscilloscope. The reason why I keep going back to the word scale invariance breaks down into time and like distance or volume.
I get you.
I get you.
Totally got you.
Sort of way.
Right.
Okay. Interesting.
So this is getting into a little bit. There's a thing with an oscilloscope called a Lysages pattern. So with this, I'm doing 12 concentric rings that are of the same radius, right? But I'm varying the incremental angle as you go along, and because one of the things that starts popping out of all this exploration is harmonic analysis.
Yeah.
And you start seeing where the nodes are on this is a fairly simple type of idea, except it ends up producing some pretty beautiful results when you start seeing where the harmonic nodes are. Here's a 5 node, and you can kind of see if you think of the sand dollar kind of morphology comes out of it. That's just 12 rings producing that, right?
Yep.
So, and then I've got it set up so by rotating the handle, you can change the incremental angular change of each of the rings, and that's how I'm stepping through this here. So this is just there's a 4, right? And so one of the ideas of like the continuing development is being able to use sound, like your voice, to generate these type of dynamics.
That's
as
so cool.
And so you could consider this an incremental stage towards that endeavor.
Yeah. Like something where we just had a show with Brandon Howard where we were doing the psychology of sound, and we were unpacking the solfeggio and Schumann's and all of the different hertzes and the ways that those can binaurally influence us towards peace or creativity or happiness or bliss or whatever, emotion, psychology of sound. Yeah.
Right.
So there's also this virtual immersion component to it of the. It's funny because on his Euphoria app, he has a visualization that's happening of the binaural frequency that's occurring. But now, if I'm in the immersive environment, okay,
right. And when you do, you're doing that type of thing with phase variation. That it's natural to do Lysages pattern on an oscilloscope. But this is an example of doing one 3-dimensionally. So for instance.
Whoa. So would it be fair to then say that when we look at like what is it, 7.38 is the Earth's Schumann resonance, something like that hertz. And so would it be fair to say that then there is the different, like you said, you chose 12 of the.
In this case, yeah.
And so you can choose the different 12, or if you want to do 18, or if you want to do 144, or whatever people want to visualize.
Right.
And then you can find that there's different. You
No,
call them
nodes.
nodes.
Yeah.
Resonances.
Resonances. Yeah.
Okay. So
And sometimes it's like it's like modular arithmetic. Like for instance, you take like a clock is modulo 12. This is why 12 is 12 is actually organic and natural. From my exploration at least.
Yeah.
So, but modulo 8, modulo Boolean is modulo 2. So it just as you repeat up. So this type of closed, instead of an infinite mathematics system, you close it by having a truncation. And then so that exploration leads very directly towards harmonic analysis. So.
Is it also then fair to say something like when people talk about the spiritual vortex that's in Sedona, Arizona, people talk about stuff like this a lot. Right. It's a possibility that there's literally a planetary resonant node in that location.
Right.
Those are the kind of things that we're playing with understanding.
Right.
Or that maybe.
And then you start thinking the scalar again.
Mm-hmm.
As okay, what are the what's the fundamental of that? Is that an overtone or is it?
Yeah.
And then you start thinking this.
Yeah.
Your scale time invariance.
Yes.
So just go through a couple more of these, and then get it. So I've been working with Terrence Howard for the last two and a half years, and one of the aspects of his geometry is certainly harmonic analysis, and much of this leads in that direction. He's taken the flower of life, and by extrapolating it and into three dimensions, and links back to our quaternion analysis. You get these fundamental wave conjugations that he's created, and he's absolutely impassioned by.
Mm-hmm. So it's something like the, because so we have on our, in this also this other asset that you prepared for the program, there's a bunch of awesome content in here, and some of it is deeply related to the golden ratio we were just talking about, and there's this quaternions, there's this interactive Grant Sanderson, 3 blue,
right,
1 brown, who does these
awesome,
incredible visualizations mathematically of these spaces, and so is then the idea that that there is a there's one that's it's further down
at the bottom.
At the bottom.
Yeah, that one.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one's actually manipulable.
Yeah.
So in this section of the applet,
You can just
I love it. There's Grant's voice.
Yeah,
I love it.
He's
Grant.
awesome.
That's great. Okay, and then we ourselves can click and drag through this.
Right.
We can
right.
add. So we come here. We add. We had a sphere, and we add a second sphere.
Right. And then with like the IJ or K, you can vary those.
Yep.
Just by you can drag and then they'll vary. So you start seeing this nonlinearity start coming up, and then it's pointing towards some of the geometry that Terrence is proposed, and the idea of 4 bubbles coming together.
Whoa.
So
we need a couple more spheres.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
And so now with these spheres, now you have 4 of these. And there's some, and so it looks like there's 3 spheres and then 1 plane. Is that just one big sphere? That last one is just huge or something?
It's a function of your orientation. You know how it's projecting. So.
Oh, yep.
So, but the one thing that I think is the most profound about this is you start seeing these. It's the same geometry as the relationship between electric and magnetic fields.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
And they're always orthogonal to each other, but orthogonal doesn't by no means mean Cartesian. You know. So. So and then this opens up. This is the big rabbit hole ultimately. So.
Oh. Okay, so there's a representation of electromagnetism that's apparent in
you can map it on, if you look at like for instance just one plane or one sphere opened up, it shows the same field dynamics as a transmission line cross section.
Yes.
So, and then it could either be that, or it could be an infinite line of a transmission line, or it could also be toroidal. You know. So.
Okay, and then there's
once again a cross section. So you're talking projection, but now what we're talking about is a projection into 3 space.
Yeah.
So this often is, and
I see.
It's hard to get our head around. You know, so
yeah,
and it gets back to our recursions again. Whether this in fact is a simulation.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Wow. Okay. And so, again, Terrence Howard,
right,
is doing a his idea of leveraging. You said it's the harmonics in the with force.
It's the flower of life.
The flower of life.
Using the flower of life, but using it as a like simply like kind of a cookie cutter into the into 3 dimensions. The projection of the spaces that get formed out of that, and I think it's actually the next part of the
I was just about to
so
say we kind of saw you for a moment with that flower of life that was happening. You had one as well, just a little bit.
Right.
That was
right.
Fun. And so he's kind of taking that to another
right. And
level.
it's interesting how ancient that symbol is.
Yeah.
And then how it is pointing towards harmonic considerations. You know.
Yeah.
And this is our there's the flower of life.
There it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is his geometry.
This is on his website, right? Yeah, I think
yeah,
so. Yeah,
yeah.
it's on his website.
I built this for him.
Oh, that's adorable. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I love it.
But that one's called the Huntian. He calls this a light unit.
Light unit. Interesting.
Uh-huh. That's an Albrian. And then the final one is called the heavenly. So he builds these like he's remarkably
interesting.
He's remarkably pristine and meticulous by building these. He builds them out of acetate, and it's just he's absolutely impassioned by it. It's really remarkable.
Now, would it be fair to say that usually, is it right to say that the repeating pattern is it's periodic?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Periodic.
Spatially
pattern.
periodic.
Spatially periodic.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So is the hypothesis that there's this sort of like light unit that is spatially periodic? That's maybe.
Yep.
Okay.
Relating to Walter Russell.
Walter Russell,
right?
And also the Planck volume, right?
Right,
like that,
and it's 0 point energy. You know, as we were talking about those that are decreasing to 0.
Okay.
Similar.
Okay. Yeah.
It's in the same vein. So.
Okay, so are we trying to? Are we thinking that there's, because Clee Irwin is also, interestingly, we've had him on the show twice, and he and like quantum gravity research are also trying to sort of identify what this style of. Are there is that kind of one of the big focuses, is to literally go beyond, because the Greeks said atom, and then we were like, okay, how about subatomic,
right,
and then now we're looking at the particles, and
I mean, I personally like entertaining the continuum all the way down,
all
and
the way down,
up,
and so
and then
okay.
this
Okay.
necessity for putting numbers on it is I think it's ego driven, and because I want to be able to tag my grand measurement system on it. But this is my own, by the way, my own personal
I see.
belief. You know?
Oh, I see.
So that it goes all the way down and all the way up.
Yeah. So then it's something along the lines of when you're looking at that meso level, the human level, and then you go,
Right.
we're going down in these orders.
It's always in relation to that.
in relation to meso
Yeah.
for now, because this is
Right.
where the conscious agents live.
Right.
And then we go
right.
down to the oscilloscope, because it's,
Right.
I see. So we're going down to the Planck volume level, all the way down, and then all the way up to the universe multiversal level.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
And then
I mean, it's always in
okay.
relation to that.
in relation to that. Yeah.
yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh my gosh, this is so insane. Gosh, I can't, like. It's just like, it's great because I spend so much of my awareness on just that, that simultaneous, that symphony we were talking about, where it's like we bathe in the ocean of oneness, and we uniquely artistically express ourselves with our instrument and melody in the world.
Right.
And so I spend my awareness bathing in that space as much as I can on a moment-to-moment basis, and it's gorgeous beauty, peace, Satchitananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. But also, when people come along like you that do this, here's quaternions, and here's this simulation design with light units and flowers of life, and look at all these manipulable mathematics and geometries and origins.
But it's play.
It's play.
It's only good when it's. I mean,
I love it.
It's like it only happens when it's play. Ultimately.
I love it. But you definitely bathed me in a unique. You baptized me in a
Oh,
unique
good,
way.
good.
You know
No,
what I
you-
mean?
no, you-
yeah.
yeah,
It's definitely
yeah.
baptizing that happens in a unique way, because I take a lot of it from I think what was interesting was that Eric said something along the lines of that Eric Weinstein said that he left the planet when he began taking physics seriously.
Okay.
Like math and physics seriously.
Okay.
And I think that that's fascinating, because I think you're probably in your intermediate stages of leaving the planet, or maybe even the advanced stages of leaving the planet, because you're taking this very seriously. And that
I don't know if I ever was here.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm not local. I'm not even local. What are you talking about? Yeah. And so, that's starting, in a sense, I'm in the beginner stages of sort of like making the realizations in a mathematical and physics way, which is making me leave the planet slowly.
You're already there.
Oh, I'm already, yeah. Well, I'm there in a conceptual, sort of scientific and spiritual and philosophical, artistic storytelling way. But when it's grounded in the actual like math and physics of these quaternions, now we're in a different sort of level of play.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I only dove into them because it was such a functional thing, And it's like, it would sound exotic, It's like, ooh, and then but because they were so functional, it's like they became even more intriguing, So.
Yeah, because the functionality, that's it. Yeah, and that kind of also ties into how, like, we are, the designers, we designed it this way because of functionality, utility. That's why it's this way.
Right.
That Cartesian style plane is this way because it could potentially be the optimal way to design realities in itself.
Seems the most apparent,
And that's why you need.
But the cube isn't as beautiful to me as like
the
sphere, the tetrahedron.
The tetrahedron. Yeah. Yeah.
But they open up problems. I mean, this is anyway another rabbit hole. But this is kind of where there's a thing called the Pythagorean comma, and it's where if you extend fifths, like octaves will always double, right? So you can go octaves all the way up and all the way down and track them very nicely mathematically, right?
Yeah.
But if you do the same path with the fifth, which geometrically is pretty interesting, being 3/2 or 2/3, it's like even though the 12 comes out of this too. When you come back to that, you come back through the cycle of fifths to that octave. They don't match. So there's a Pythagorean comma there, and this is kind of like a crack in Cartesian geometry.
There's
One might
there's a
argue.
potential crack in Cartesian geometry.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
And you wonder if that crack,
And it's super intriguing, therefore.
if there's
of course,
something
yeah.
that has potentially to do with where we can learn our source code through something.
Perhaps.
Like that,
I mean, this is why
perhaps.
the music is like the piano is well tempered. You know, they have to temper it in order to have it be able to play in all different keys.
Yeah.
Otherwise it would only match in one key.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Before we started, we were talking a bit also about Frank Chester and the Chesterhedron,
Right.
and how we had him on the show. And,
Awesome.
And he unpacked for us sort of the relationship of what it means to think about if I'm getting this right, 7-sided,
Yeah.
the Chesterhedron,
That's right.
and that you have that he's identified as like why the heart is the way that it is inside of the body, and how it's doing that spinning, that twisting style lub dubbing,
Right.
and that there's that similar I think, or the aurora borealis on the
on
the north and south
Yeah.
parts of the planet.
Right.
And
You start seeing these opposed vortices all over the place.
Vortices.
And this is where my initial exposure and intrigue with electric universe was these Birkeland currents that I was telling you about.
Oh yeah, that's
where you
right.
have concentric cylinders of charge rotating and counter rotating, and super intriguing. You know, yeah, that's, you can just click on that. You can kind of see like the solar apex. This is actual satellite data pulled together, showing it's a perspective from the North Pole of the sun. So you see this counter rotation right at the at the point. To me, this was just a major confirmation of being on the right track. You know. So.
Okay, and I like how you called it. It's like the polar vortexes. Is that kind of what
Yeah,
you're
there's
saying?
a thing called the solar apex that points in the direction of movement of the sun, and thus the whole solar system.
Yeah. Okay.
Through
Interesting.
the galaxy.
Interesting.
And
yeah.
so that movement creates there's a helix that's formed by that.
Okay.
As you think about
Is it fair to say that there's a helix that is formed at the center of the Milky Way at the black hole, and there's a helix that is formed at the center of our sun, of our solar system at the sun, and then there's a helical center that's formed at the center of our Earth.
If you think that everything's moving, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Matter and motion.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So by definition, there has to be, right?
Those. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over time. Right?
Interesting.
So it's all, it depends on what it's relative to. Your motion measured relative to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this you had in here a lot of other really, really awesome content. We have more to sort of look at as we also take you through the rest of the video. We should definitely get Terrence on the program. Let's make that happen. We can also all talk on the program, which would be very interesting to have us all unpack this.
Okay.
We want to unpack the design of our reality and just universe design, simulation designs. This is stuff that's obviously extremely aligned with our ethos.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So this is a app I did with Eugene Bagashoff, who is he's a physicist that lectures with Electric Universe, and he also was a featured speaker at the Observing the Frontier conference in Albuquerque. And this is a web app, actually. So this shows the different scales of the local interstellar cloud.
Yeah.
And so this is like the perspective from Pluto, and then this is coming out to like where the Ibex probe is.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you keep on moving out, this would be the local interstellar cloud. and then finally we move out to Gould's belt. So you're scaling out further and further, but still you're just in a very small corner of the galaxy,
Yeah.
right? And that's the galaxy and the cross section there. But
Wow.
this is showing this center of the torus pipe going down through it. And this was inspired by a guy named Jim Wenninger. But one of the things that's really intriguing are these. If you go back to kind of a geocentric view of it, these little protractors are pointing at it's the galactic plane, the ecliptic, and then the celestial plane. So they show, and it's something that interestingly Terence's geometry kind of points out too. We kind of locked into that as we were playing around with it. So that's the galactic plane you kind of see there.
Yep.
And then the ecliptic, and then I think I'm lining up with the celestial there. Yeah.
You're kind of walking us through that oscilloscope here, because we're going out from the solar
think of it,
system scale to the galaxy scale.
Right, exactly. This is this. Right.
Interesting. I like this sort of immersive oscilloscoping for young people. I think it's super interesting. And if we could, in a sense, go one more set of order of magnitudes inward to the micro scale of the cell and atom and subatomic, then that'd be interesting to span the whole spectrum.
Right. I mean, I think this is our anthropocentric nature. Yeah. It's like you start looking. I mean, just in the range of animals that we're familiar with, you can see this in action. Just the frequency of behavior of something like a hummingbird versus an eagle. The hummingbird is operating much more quickly, obviously, than an eagle, and then move up to something like an elephant, which is moving so slow, but it's related to the scale, that frequency related to the scale, and this whole idea of like, oh well, his brain isn't big enough. This has nothing to do with the size of it. It's just the frequency, So
that's interesting.
So there's ramifications of this consideration.
Interesting. Yeah, the hummingbird is heart beating and wing flapping super fast compared to the elephants.
Right. But then the environment becomes like it's like syrup. The air that we interpret as something so thin and everything. By being small like that, it becomes it becomes a more viscous.
From
its perception.
That's interesting. So for the hummingbird, it's more
like
molasses,
right?
Really,
right.
like the
it's
nitrogen,
like you can see
oxygen.
if you slow. And this is the beauty of our high-speed cameras now.
Yeah,
you start seeing the motion, and it's like, oh, it's swimming.
It looks like it's swimming. That's interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's really relative.
Yeah.
Really relative.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow, it's interesting. We're always anthropocentric.
Everything.
Everything.
It's very delusional.
It's super delusional. Because if that's really the perspective of a hummingbird. And the Umwelt idea as well is really fascinating, because if the snake's seeing in infrared, and if the dolphin and bat use sonar and these types of things, then we're way out of our ability to try and understand what that would be like to use those characteristics of perception and existence, phenomenology in general.
Right.
And let alone a dog or a cat that's sitting here, which we're
Right.
always trying to project a human perspective into.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can see it in their lifespan too. I mean, it's
there's that.
It's scalarly related as well. Just it tracks with size. So.
And because even that dog scent, right? That scent thing for dogs is such a serious that we don't have anywhere near our qualia representation of.
Right.
So, it's like as Donald Hoffman said on our show, he's like, try to imagine a color that doesn't exist.
Right.
Imagine a color outside the color wheel right now. You're like, what do I do to try and imagine a color outside of the color wheel? You're like, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
And that's similar to like this qualia of a dog's smelling, or the sonar of animal,
What's
or
it feel like? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're trying, or there's like a fourth cone in certain for a visual perception for seeing a specific band of light between I believe it's like red and orange, like so people, some I think specifically women can see a certain amount, like maybe like your shirt could
Right.
see a little bit more
Right.
of the color to
Right.
it.
Right.
And I'm just like, I don't know how to do that. And so
Right.
that sort of idea of there's so many phenomena, there's some infinite phenomenological states for consciousness to explore eternally, and that's potentially what the metaphysic is, of that oneness that is infinitely exploring different qualias and phenomenologies, and that we are that, we've been that, we will always be that.
Right.
Welcome to the party.
Right. Thank you.
This is the kind of stuff that we talk about on the program. I love over time honing more in on the synthesis of science and spirituality on some sort of like a metaphysic that we can sort of rock with and
Right.
vibe on, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
You jam
That's
on.
right.
I love
Right.
that. I love that. Okay, let's see what else we got in the. We're almost done with the demo, everyone. And we're still in the same portal. We're in that same portal.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
we're still
the
in the
last
Cartesian
piece
portal?
is this it's the solar system model, Jim Wenninger's solar system model, and you'll see the helical nature of this. I have a projection of the helix that it rides on, and so
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
so
Wow.
so if you project over time the orbits and then the movement of the solar apex, which has been measured, by the way, so they do know in fact that it does
Wow.
travel. But I've got it so you can adjust the amount just for sake of visual interpretation, you know. So
And this is that. And
this is I mean, this is interesting because his model is the idea of filaments within filaments, and the Hope vibration there that you're bringing up
yeah.
shows this in spades. And once again, this is a projection, 4D projection into 3 space, you know.
Okay, and again, a 4D projection into 3 space.
Yeah.
Super
So
interesting.
yeah,
Oh my.
Niles
goodness.
Johnson is just like, just check his stuff out. It was amazing.
Okay, Niles Johnson is the professor that I was watching teach me about the quaternions. He's so interesting.
He's great. Yeah.
Niles Johnson, shout out to Niles Johnson. I emailed you, you emailed me back. I'm so grateful for you. I told you how grateful I am for you. Even though it's hard, because especially if you're sort of fundamentally in mathematics, just fundamentals, like just basic algebra and geometry and stuff, you can handle the slow pace. You have to sort of pause the video a lot and take notes and take screenshots. But I highly recommend watching his lectures on this, because picking it up to the next levels, like I have this scenario I've been telling people now on the program that it took me 5 years to learn what the word recursion meant. Because in 2015, Douglas Hofstadter and Gödel Escher-Bach introduced me to recursion,
Right.
but I didn't get it. And I didn't get it in 2016 or 2017 or 2018, 2019, maybe a little bit. In 2020, I finally realized that I have to storytell myself to understand what it means, because nobody ever told me that if you see a seed, like an acorn that becomes an oak tree that drops more acorns that become more oak trees, or like humans that birth more humans, which grow up, get married, and have more humans,
Right.
that's recursive.
Right.
And nobody taught me that. And so I had to discover that and storytell it myself. And now there's these like 2 weeks ago, we had this guest that just came over for a little bit. There wasn't an interview with him. His name's Shay. And what happened was he is like 23 years old and he didn't know what recursion was. And in the span of 30 seconds of telling him those stories about plants and humans,
Right.
and how that's recursive, he's like, I give recursion.
Yeah.
And so I'm
Yeah.
like, it took.
It's kind of like revealing. It's, you already know. It's just
Yes.
it's remembering
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And it's also
Yeah.
storytelling it to make it more efficient.
That's right.
That's
That's
the
right.
key
It's
for
right.
me.
Right.
And so for me, with Niles, you, Eric Weinstein, all these people that are trying to tell me what the Hopf vibration is, what quaternions are, what an idea of like a geometric unity could look like, how to visualize a 4D projection in 3D space.
Right.
I've viewed this, how many times now I've seen this? I've probably seen this, maybe 15 or 20 times in the last, 3 years, let's say. And I'm still, I feel like the early stages of recursion
sure,
right now.
right,
Yeah,
right, right,
for
right,
me,
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
As it kind of locks down and gets
Over time,
gets the picture of it.
I'll revisit
The
it
other-
just like we revisit the movies or the books or the songs, and we see more of the detail. We understand
Right,
more. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah,
until
I mean that's the beauty of it. I mean,
yeah.
this is where the tie back to like learning an art or learning music. The whole key is that where you're really not thinking about the doing of it. It becomes organic. It becomes part of you.
Yes.
So there's never any.
That's it.
I have to say, personally, it's very difficult for me to say I've any book that I've been exposed to that I've dove into, I can't say I completed it.
Totally. Exactly.
Exactly. It's like
Yep.
I would
That's
go
right.
back to it and I would find something
Exactly.
I'd never seen before
Exactly.
in it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's why it's always funny when you sort of see this phenomena of like when you are at like an art gallery and there's the speed at which people move through the art, right? And some people go 3 seconds, move to the next 3 seconds. Some people can spend an hour looking at one
right.
and draw more and more out of it.
Right.
In this case, I would say the same thing's true with these abstract maths and physics, artificial intelligence, theories of everything, philosophy, spirituality, all these sciences. In a sense, the paradox is that you are already it. Like Rumi says, you are the diamond necklace that is already around your neck. So stop going around from room to room. But at the same time, realize that we are that work in progress that is trying to re-baseline constantly to higher states of consciousness, closer and closer to God consciousness, Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, infinite consciousness.
Right.
And that's why it takes patience and that love along the journey to realize that I'm perfectly fine with coming back to this over time to keep getting more and more of it, but I'm not going to give up, which I see so many people do, which is that it's like a feeling.
Well,
of
it's this tyranny of the ego, ultimately, and that seems to be continuing to be the message for me personally. It's like kill the ego.
Yeah.
It's like the pain has been caused by that character.
Yeah.
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 So.
It's and as Ken Wilber says, transcend and include the ego, transcend and include the social consciousness, ethno-consciousness, planetary consciousness, transpersonal consciousness, and then you kind of basically live in some sort of a non-dual symphonic consciousness where you feel the symphony, the oneness of all being, but you also express yourself uniquely artistically as an artist,
Right,
which
right.
requires a little bit of some sort of an idea of what it means to be an individual.
I get, yeah.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very. I find it both beautiful and confounding simultaneously.
Yes. I love this. I'm so happy that we have this. Actually, I think when Eric was on Joe Rogan, he said that this is the most beautiful visualization that we have available to us on the planet. or
Yeah.
something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
The Hopf vibration.
I totally agree.
Really?
Yeah.
You do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so
As far as grand computer graphics visualizations, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I aspire to go,
next
that
steps.
direction. Too.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Terrence also is wanting to go in this
Yeah.
direction. This is what you guys are about.
Yeah.
So interesting. I want to also go in this direction with our animated series and all this type of stuff like this. It'd be fun to have one of the modules in the animated series literally be about like Hopf vibrations. Like one of the places that the chimps go to try and learn about the nature of reality is
Right.
literally to the scientists and spiritual leaders that are studying what quaternion arithmetic is and what these 4D projections into 3D space are, this type
Right.
of thing. That'd be a fun little module. And then
Yeah.
the kids would play before the episode and after the episode with the
Right.
with what like the Grant Sanderson style
Right. Right.
mathematically
Well,
manipulable
it invites you to spend a lot instead of feeling, oh, I have to learn this for the test or whatever. You know, it's like it invites you to spend a lot of time enjoying it from many different perspectives because they are so intriguing. You know,
Yes.
it's like a beautiful flower. It's like, whoa, what is this? And you want to spend time with it. You know, so.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awe. It's driven by awe, and that's the thing. And it's also very user experience friendly is the other key thing. Like what you're showing us with the Vu lobby and all of the different portals. Let's go. We are going to have an example, right, of one more portal into another sort of non-Cartesian, right? Is that right? Or no?
I think we go. This is the flying through along the solar system here.
Yep.
And but I think we end with Schauberger here, just linking up with.
Okay.
Here's your toroidal
Yep.
consideration, and then the harmonic. It's looking at the one cycle of Saturn, you know, which is interesting. We're coming up to this grand conjunction right now, the 21st. So that's a cross section of what I was just showing you there.
Of December.
Well, this is the one at the bottom there is that's the path of the solar system.
Yeah,
You know,
that's one of the
so.
visualizations of what. Okay, I
This
see.
is from right,
Taking that
right, and you
helix
start seeing
and-
this
Yes.
the signal,
Oh, I
some
see.
of
Cool.
sine waves.
Okay, and
if
then
you wanna
so
look
that,
at it
that
and-
biggest or that most the sine wave that's
On the outside, that's
on the
Saturn. Yeah.
that's Saturn.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
And then Earth is there in the middle.
in the middle,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The very smallest would be Mercury. So.
yeah, yeah.
And once again, here's your frequency relationship. You know, as you scale down along that radius, that 1/r, your frequency goes through the roof, and this is the part
Yeah.
of the spectral analysis of
And
everything.
the ascension increase.
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
then into that whole Dirac, world
Yeah.
of that spike. So.
That is potentially our metaverse recursion, which I guess we'll see if that's the case in our lifetime.
So I think that was it. I think I brought in something about the trees here. Oh, this is the 1/r, right? And then the hyperbolic analysis is, once again, Viktor Schauberger, just super inspirational. This book, Living Energies, that I highly recommend. And just the what comes out of 1/r as a consideration harmonically. And then this life force, what living energies are, and how to just from there's a very simple question is like how do trees defy gravity, and one of the lines that I enjoy bringing up, thinking about Newtonian philosophical materialism, is why Newton didn't figure out how the apple got up in the tree in the first place. So. You gotta find a joke in there somewhere.
I love that one. And just it's another way to ask the question is like, how often do you contemplate your source?
Yeah.
It's just another way to ask the similar question, which is that the more that we contemplate our source, the more that we contemplate the nature of our consciousness, awareness, existence, being, reality, and literally dedicate time to it. One of the funny things is that there seems to be, like in modernity, there seems to be this mantra in modernity, which is that I don't need to spend time on investigating truth. Like, I don't know why, but there seems to be that mantra. Like, to me, there's like this very big resistance of consciousness to investigate its own nature.
Yeah.
Like, so the veil.
It's almost considered woo woo. I mean, it's disparaged, right?
Yeah.
You look anything in that world, and it's like You know, you're chasing. What's the right word for it? Just oh man, it's gonna elude me for some status. Basically, you're chasing stat. It's like I want to signal how together and write in the just most. You're the perfect example of society. You know, this is what politicians had up until recently been put on. Oh, this is the best example of culture, and this is my, you know, and then that chasing status all the time, and I think this is why, like, the hermetic tradition and you know, by just straight out of the words, it demands that difficult searching of yourself and knowing the commitment to know yourself, you know.
Yes.
And that's always been that's the mantra, you know.
That is
difficult.
Yeah. It's like the perfect reality design where there's only a very small amount of people that are actually undergoing the investigation of awareness. So it's like something like you know, this is one that I've been playing with that's been pretty fun. Is the iceberg analogy. So, let's see if I can get it to show up for you guys. Yep. All right, awesome. So, basically that the top left corner is the subject that spends the vast majority of its time investigating the object. In this case, it's the cell phone, right? That's the one that's kind of 4 billion people have now and spend most of their time doing the object with. Right. And then the second one, the one right below that, where you kind of get to where the surface of the tip of the iceberg is meeting the water, which then goes to the bottom of the iceberg, is kind of like what happened. Did you by chance see the documentary The Social Dilemma? Mm-mm. So basically what happened was it was a big investigation into what's going on as a planet around our relationship with the devices, right? And with the business plans and the tech companies and the asymmetry in data and all this stuff. Right. But that's why the box is on the arrow now, because the subject becomes aware of their relationship with the object. Right. Okay. So now we get a little deeper. Right. Okay. And then that sort of next step is when the subject investigates another subject. Uh-huh. And then there begins to be some sort of a realization of the self in the other, right? So that hermetic, that know thyself, spiritual perennial tradition. Right. And then the very sort of last one is when the subject investigates its own nature and gets that. Yeah. Right. It's beautiful. Yeah. And the reason why it's in the excuse me. The reason why it's in the order that it is because that sort of surface level iceberg at the very top, although it's only 10% of the iceberg or so, the peak of the iceberg, let's say, 90% of civilization apparently spends its time in that only surface level looking at an object relationship. Right. Whereas the bottom of the iceberg, which is where you get potentially 90% of the experience of the nature of being and consciousness and reality, which is when you have a true gnosis of what know thyself actually means, embodied. Right. Only maybe 10% of people are actually undergoing, or less, the actual true experience. But do we know that, though? It's an approximation. It's a ballpark.
I know what you're saying, but is that part of the illusion too? And is that a reflection of yourself? And then, as far as from a recursion, is that a reflection of your own internals, right? Yeah. You know, Evan Bliss, one of my close buds, he says that
consciousness in many ways is subjective storytelling. So in this sense,
Yeah,
I'm sitting
yeah.
here subjectively storytelling
right.
to people that
Right.
this is the nature of
Yeah,
life.
right. You're your own
Yeah.
politico-religious force to be reckoned with. You know,
But my next my next question would be something like
as am I. Yeah, right.
yeah, exactly, as are you.
Right,
That's right.
right.
My next question would be something like am I wrong? That would be my next question, in the sense of, is it better for consciousness?
It's too fun to say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know.
I don't know the answer.
Because if this was in a sense wrong, like if people were to say that, well, Alan, it's not that important for consciousness to investigate its own nature,
Right.
then it would be like, there's no point to go to the depths of the iceberg. Whatever, you don't need to be in that submarine
Right.
able to investigate the depths of the iceberg.
Right.
Which that part of the analogy is also important, which is that being at the surface level, the water pressure is easier to deal with.
Yeah.
Right, so you have to
Yeah.
add that part into the analogy as well.
Yeah.
Because
You could turn it upside down, and then it's like then you're like lower on the ground at the top, and then as you transcend, you get up to the.
there you go.
But anyway,
Exactly.
There's
There's
just
all these
all different
representations
metaphors,
and metaphors of
like,
it. Yep.
What's the spirit of how does it strike you? So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is one of the for those that are adamant watchers of our program. This is one of the added graphics to the High Level Perception project, which will be published in the hard and soft cover versions and the online version before Christmas. So
It's exciting.
yeah, it's exciting because there's a couple bonus like graphics and bonus content that I didn't publish in the one that I released at the end of October, early November. And so it's fun though that, yeah, exactly. It's fun that I get to sort of like make a tiny like bonus edition, which is, it's a fun thing to be able to do that.
Right.
But one thing that we do have to do is we have to, in a sense, surrender at some point to, when you do publish, like for example, like Westworld or whatever, like you publish season 1, it's done. Like you're not going back and editing season 1 again, right?
Right.
And so it's the same thing with your book or your game. In a sense, you can update the game and update the book and stuff like that. And that's why Leonardo da Vinci famously said that art is never finished, only abandoned.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But I mean, the opportunity for things to always be to never reach a state of completion and it be okay is better now than it's ever been. So they're processes, just like we're processes versus objects. So
Yeah. Exactly.
stasis.
Yes.
Dynamic versus static.
Yep. We crushed it.
Yeah, cool.
We
yeah.
crushed it. That was so fun.
Awesome. Me
That
too.
was so
Me too.
fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would love to I'd love to do a bunch of things. I'd love to popularize on a deeper level across the planet the idea of simulation design. Right. We got to make that happen because this whole process of what we've done this episode is it is the subject investigating itself. This whole process.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we
I've had to go through the alchemical process with it, as you might imagine. So calcificate all those. Right.
I love it. The more you get into simulation design, the more you undergo the alchemical process. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So first of all, so let's popularize that. So if we, maybe what we can do is we can like early next year, maybe in a month or two, we can do like a round 2 where we unpack simulation design just in even more detail like we were doing today. Maybe we can bring Terrence on. Maybe we can bring on your partner as well.
Yeah.
Or like other people in the space.
Sure.
We can maybe collaborate on Chimps, the actual execution of the animated series, all these different types of things. So we have a lot to look into doing in this popularization of the space.
Yeah.
I have a silly question that I like asking
Sure.
at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Okay. DJ, what is your favorite food?
Oh man. it's like it goes back to this. The thing that goes into my mind immediately is I've only had this like once, but it was my dad, and I was like fifth or sixth grade. My dad took me to Athens, and it was a lobster with like this cheese melted onto it.
Yeah.
It was just amazing.
Yeah. Have you tried remaking it here? Or?
No.
No.
Uh-uh.
You were
It was
just
only
like
once,
and
one time.
done.
No, I've never. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what came to mind.
Yeah,
So,
but you've never had it since then.
Mm-mm. I mean, I've tried, but nothing,
but nothing
never,
like
never,
it.
never there.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It might have been the atmosphere and just
Oh, because
and then,
you were also in Athens,
Right.
Oh, that's another thing too.
yeah.
It's like hard to do that in the
Yeah,
kitchen.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
yours?
I don't know yet. I've been kind
Yeah.
of trying to figure it out. I gave a couple. One time, someone asked me back the question, and I gave some of my kind of like familial home cooked food, like borscht and baklava, stuff like that from the Armenian tradition.
Right.
But also, I really like sushi's delicious, right? But also, one of my friends began answering the question by literally taking us to different parts of the world and telling us what their favorite food was from all different parts of the world. And I was like, that's another good answer, is to literally jump to the different cultures and begin saying what's my favorite food in those cultures,
Right.
which is another good one.
Yep.
To sort of to how to answer the question.
Right.
But lobsters actually come up on the program quite a bit.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
very rich.
It's
It's a
super rich.
little indulgent,
especially with cheese sauce.
It was no, I mean, you can't. Yeah, right. It's Heart Attack City, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I love it. Oh. Well, wow. Thanks for coming on, DJ.
Thank you.
What a
Thank you very
pleasure.
much for inviting me. I appreciate it, Alan.
So fun. And super grateful again, Andy. We have so much to still
Yeah, Andy.
create together.
There we go.
Yeah. And I hope that
And Leslie.
and Leslie
And Terrence.
and Terrence. That's right. See, this is it. This is this nodal
James. Chris.
James Chris. This is a nodal cluster.
It's like romper room. Right.
Yeah.
I see.
Take the links in the bio below that we have for you to explore the Argos.Vu, Argos.Vu, also the.Vu. Check that out as well. Also, we have DJ's LinkedIn profile. We have becomingborealis.com as well. That kind of acts like his social posting place, like a blog of awesome high level things for you to check out. They're all great. Check those out. Comment with what you think in the bio or in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode. Let us know what you think. Like the video, share it with other people that you think would resonate with learning about simulation design. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Support the other artists, entrepreneurs, spiritual leaders, scientists, engineers in your communities and around the world that you believe in. Support them and help them grow. You can support us, Simulation. Our links are in the bio below. Help us continue executing our goals here. And go and build the future, everyone. Manifest your dreams into the world. We are undergoing the awakening, given the fact that we are literally building simulation design technologies.
Right.
It's a mechanism for us to awaken. It's so
That's right.
interesting.
That's right.
Wow. We love you very much. Thanks for tuning in.
Right.
We'll see you soon, everyone.
Okay.
Bye. Peace.